For the third time in his NFL career, Zach Wilson has been benched. Not only that, it was shocking. Robert Saleh, today at a press conference, announced a brand new quarterback, Tim Boyle. And this was his reasoning behind benching Zach Wilson in place of Tim Boyle.
Just to give him an opportunity, a different style of quarterback. So really it's just to give him an opportunity to see if we can do something with the offense. All three will be up on game day. Trevor will be the immediate backup.
So that's another thing. Zach Wilson won't even be the immediate backup to Tim Boyle. It will be Trevor Siemian, that's bad. That's pretty bad.
I'm kind of surprised that Trevor Siemian isn't the guy they're starting. Tim Boyle has had 120 passes in the NFL, 73 completions. His quarterback rating is 50. His 3 touchdowns and 9 interceptions. The guy has not played. He's never played really in the NFL since 2000. This is since 2018. He's been around all that time, standing on the sidelines. He's never really gotten into a game. He got 1 start, I think. 1 or 2 starts. He's 3 starts.
3 in 2021.
Yeah. So, and that was with the Lions, right? Yeah. So I don't know. Is he much of an improvement over Zach Wilson? We'll see, I guess.
Yeah.
But his touchdown to interception ratio looks to be about the same as Zach Wilson's, although the sample size is really small. So we'll have to see. I don't know why they wouldn't start Trevor Siemian. At least he's been a starter in the NFL. Right. He's had quite a bit of experience. You think they'd give him a shot?
You would maybe. I don't know.
Well, maybe he's going to come in off the bench, Maybe if Boyle gets off to a bad start, they'll put Siemian in there. Or maybe they think Boyle knows the offense better than Siemian because Siemian he didn't come at the beginning of the year, right? He came
about midway.
Yeah. So I'm surprised, actually. I'm not surprised they benched Zach Wilson. And I think that you asked me, is he officially a bust? I would
is
say,
Zach Wilson officially a bust?
I think he's officially a bust. I do.
Yeah.
He's got talent, but it's the mental part of it. He makes too many mistakes.
And that's something that Robert Saleh actually talked about, was the fact that he needs to figure out how to speed up the game. Mentally, the game needs to be sped up for him. And he needs to be at that NFL pace, which he clearly is. And a lot of overthrows, a lot of bad play. In this game, he wasn't pressured the most in the game, or he wasn't pressured as much as he has been throughout the game. I mean, this Sunday, it was a pretty bad loss. I understand you're up against the Bills, but when you had an opportunity to make plays happen, your defense definitely stepped up. They had 10 plays within the Jets' 30 very early in that game, and they only allowed field goals. You were down, I want to say 6-0 at one point, 9-0. You were able to put up no points on the board whatsoever. Would you believe, if I were to say Tommy DeVito had the same amount of touchdown passes as Zach Wilson this season, would you believe me?
I wouldn't think so, but you're probably right.
That is the case. Tommy DeVito has the same amount of touchdown passes as Zach Wilson. And I think Zach Wilson has 6 times his attempts, if I'm not mistaken. If it's about 6 times his attempts.
I don't know what the issue is with Zach Wilson. I mean, he had a good game against Kansas City.
He had a great game against Kansas City.
Has a great defense. They have a very good defense. He played well against them. He played pretty well against the Buffalo in the first game of the season.
Right.
And he played pretty well against the Broncos too. But he's inconsistent and he makes big mental errors. So you can't have that. And their record now is 4-6, right?
I believe so.
Yeah.
It's really unfortunate that it came to this, but we saw Namath talk about this earlier this year. We had a topic about it where he was completely done with Zach Wilson. And I think that was a game or two before the Chiefs game.
Looks like Joe Namath was right.
Absolutely. I mean, last year we talked about it. Zach Wilson got benched twice. How are you going to put him back in there? Now he got benched for a 3rd time. I think Zach Wilson's time as a New York Jet. Yeah,
I think it's over.
His time as a Jet, I think, is officially over. I don't know how big his market will be. He'll definitely be a perennial backup, depending on if any team wants him. It really is a scheme thing. I don't think Zach Wilson was all that. He kind of reminds me of Johnny Manziel. Manziel had a pretty decent arm in college. He was explosive. He was a runner. He looked really, really good. He comes to the NFL, and it's slightly different. Johnny Manziel was a self-inflicting wound type of a thing, where he wasn't mentally prepared for the NFL. Zach Wilson just plays poorly. So I can't really say anything else about that. I mean, he played very, very poorly. He got benched 3 times. Turnover prone, not accurate with the football, decision-making was off. And
well, it's not fair to the rest of the team not to try something
Absolutely.
else. They got to try something else. I have to. I'm just surprised they didn't go with Siemian over Boyle. Because,
I mean, as Saleh said, just to see, if anything changes with the offense. I mean, this offense has been terrible, and players have sort of spoken up about it. Now they really have nothing else to say because it's like, what can we do? We have Zach Wilson as our quarterback. That's all they could say now. They kept making excuses and putting stuff out there. Now, there's nothing else to say. I mean, they're so defeated through 10 games already because they haven't been able to do anything. I think Zach Wilson, I'll look it up right now, but if I'm not mistaken, Wilson's last touchdown throw was all the way back, he threw one today. But before today, his last throw was back against the Giants a number of weeks ago. Early November, late October was the last time he threw a touchdown, besides today. And by the way, I'll say this. He never, in this game, never completed a pass to a wide receiver. You have Garrett Wilson. You have Allen Lazard, who's a perfectly acceptable 2 or 3. And by the way, I just want to make this abundantly clear. Randall Cobb, like I said, maybe he played 10 plays in a game. He has been removed from the offense at this point. He's not doing anything. He's not getting anything.
That.
As could I. But people were saying, Randall Cobb and Rodgers, they're going to be on key, on tune. Rodgers didn't really play.
They might have been.
I don't know. I'm not entirely sure about that, but
I mean, that's the whole reason Randall Cobb is with the Jets, is because of Aaron Rodgers. They never would have had those guys if it wasn't for Aaron Rodgers coming.
Same as Lazard. He's there because of Rodgers. I guarantee you. And also
they don't.
The Jets appeased Aaron Rodgers, I think, way more than they needed.
Yeah.
To.
Well, they don't. I don't think they think very highly of Lazard either.
He's not that great.
Yeah.
He's not that great of a receiver. I think if we're talking about blame, because I do think there needs to be some blame going around. I think Robert Saleh himself is fine. He did what he got his side of the ball right. The defense is extremely good.
He's the head coach, though. He has to be responsible for both sides of the ball.
Right, but if you have a guy who's inept at playing his own position like Zach Wilson is, it's tough. And I'll give him this. He tried to get every ounce of Zach Wilson he could out of him. He tried to get the best quarterback he could possibly out of him. I think we seriously need to talk about Joe Douglas. He had one great draft, and that's the Sauce Gardner draft. He got Jermaine Johnson, Sauce Gardner, a number of key pieces, and especially on that defensive side. They got Zach Wilson at 2. Second overall from BYU. Why? It's Zach Wilson we're talking about here. And I talked about this. I didn't believe it myself, but just out of the case of being correct, in a mock draft, I had Zach Wilson going number 2. I don't understand why. They etched it in stone as early as I could possibly tell. Zach Wilson was their number 2 guy. You had Justin Fields. You had Mac Jones. You had Trey Lance. You couldn't get Trevor Lawrence because the Jaguars were horrible that year. You actually had an opportunity to be number 1, but you won a couple games there. You pick Zach Wilson at 2 over Mac Jones, who I think is the only quarterback in college football history to have 40-plus touchdowns, 5 or fewer interceptions, and 4,500 yards. Only player in college. It's Mac Jones, then nobody else. You had Justin Fields, very similar skill set, mobile guy, great arm, Ohio State, a bigger college school than BYU is. You had Trey Lance, who went number 3 overall, but we saw him, very raw quarterback, but extremely talented, 6'4", 220, very mobile. And you picked a guy from BYU who has great YouTube highlights. YouTube highlights is not a quarterback make.
Maybe that year was not the best year to pick a quarterback because none of those guys have really
Trevor Lawrence
have really shown much. Trevor Lawrence for sure, but he was number 1.
Right.
He went number 1. So the rest of those guys, maybe they haven't done so hot in the NFL so far.
That is true.
Yeah. So I would say that Justin Fields I'd rank a lot higher than Zach Wilson. I mean, Justin Fields he's shown that he can do it. He's got to find a way to do it consistently. And with the Bears, that's kind of tough to do.
Right.
Right? So, Mac Jones, I think he's got a real confidence issue right now. And his first season with Josh McDaniel as his OC, he had a good year. It was a decent year.
Great year.
Second year, there was a mess with the OCs. And this year, maybe Bill O'Brien just isn't going to go a good OC. That could be, too. Maybe they could bring back Josh McDaniel. I don't know.
I'm not sure. But, I think, bust is definitely a strong word, but we looked at the numbers. I had the numbers back a while ago. I don't know if I ever showed them. He's very, very comparable to Jamarcus Russell. His numbers are nearly identical to Jamarcus Russell, and we all consider Jamarcus Russell a bust. So if your numbers exactly resemble another bust in the NFL, you're a bust. So Zach Wilson, I'm sorry, maybe he could find his mojo in a different situation. But
yes, he's playing in a big market. He's playing under the brightest lights in New York, and where the most media are, most sports media, including us, are giving you a hard time.
Right.
So that's got to be hard on the psyche too.
You got to be mentally tough to play in New York. And Zach Wilson maybe wasn't cut out for it.
When you're a professional athlete, you have to be supremely confident in yourself.
Right.
Otherwise, you're not going to make it, because there's going to be plenty of criticism, even when you're an elite player.
Right.
Tom Brady had plenty of criticism along the way. He had a lot of criticism.
Everyone hated him.
Yeah.
But I think it's because he kept winning. That was part of the
People
hate Zach Wilson because he isn't winning.
Yeah.
Little bit of a different hate. I would say Tom Brady it was more jealousy than it was pure hate. People legitimately hate Zach Wilson. People booing him as soon as he comes off the field. Sounds kind of like a decent amount of quarterbacks.
He may be happy he's benched.
Who knows?
Yeah.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Make sure you subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, if you want to check out the full episode, make sure you click the I in the top right-hand corner right now. If you want to listen to this show anywhere you go, make sure you go to anchor.fm/The Harvey Hour or anywhere you get your podcasts.